The envelope arrived at Windsor Castle on a Tuesday morning. No return address. Just 3 words written in shaky handwriting. She took it. Inside, a single photograph. Blurred but clear enough. A sapphire brooch lying on red velvet. The same brooch Princess Diana had worn to her last Christmas at Sandringham. The same brooch that had vanished after her death. The same brooch the royal family had spent 26 years searching for. Kate Middleton held the photograph in her hand, her heart pounding. She stood in the morning room, sunlight streaming through the tall windows. The palace was quiet. Too quiet. She looked at the image again, studying every detail. The brooch was real. She was certain of it. But who sent this? And why now? Before we go further into this story, if you love royal mysteries and emotional true stories like this one, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. Kate turned the envelope over. Nothing. No clue. No name. She felt a chill run down her spine. Someone knew something. Someone had been hiding this secret for decades. The brooch wasn't just jewelry. It was history. It had belonged to Queen Mary, passed down through generations. Diana had cherished it. She wore it on special occasions, close to her heart. When she died, the brooch disappeared. Rumors swirled for years. Some said it was stolen. Others claimed it was lost in the chaos after the accident. The truth had never surfaced. Until now, Kate walked to the window and stared out at the gardens. The roses were in full bloom, their petals bright against the green lawn. But she barely noticed. Her mind was racing. She thought of Diana, of the pain she must have felt, of the secrets that had been buried with her, and she thought of Camilla. The name hung in the air like smoke. Camilla, now queen consort. Camilla, who had been the shadow in Diana's marriage. Camilla, who had worn so many pieces of royal jewelry over the years. Could she have taken the brooch? Could she have hidden it all this time? Kate didn't want to believe it, but the photograph told a different story. She needed help. Someone who could investigate quietly. Someone who wouldn't draw attention. She thought of Robert Hayes, the head of palace security. He'd been with the family for 30 years. He knew the secrets. He knew the people. If anyone could find the truth, it was him. Kate picked up her phone and dialed. 3 rings. Then his voice calm and steady. "Your Royal Highness, Robert," she said softly. "I need to see you. Right away. It's about Diana." It was a pause. A long one. Then he spoke, his voice lower now. "I'll be there in 10 minutes." Kate hung up and looked at the photograph again. The sapphire gleamed in the image, catching light that no longer existed. She felt the weight of what was coming. This wasn't just about a brooch. This was about loyalty. About truth. About a woman who had died too young, her memory still caught between love and betrayal. Somewhere in the palace, someone knew where that brooch was. Someone had kept it hidden. And Kate was about to find out who. Robert Hayes arrived exactly 10 minutes later. He was a tall man, with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He'd served 3 generations of royals. He'd seen scandals come and go. He'd kept secrets that would shake the crown. Kate met him in the private study. She closed the door behind them. No staff, no witnesses. Just the 2 of them and the photograph on the desk. Robert picked it up. His face didn't change, but his fingers tightened around the edges. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "It came this morning. Anonymous." He studied the image carefully. His jaw clenched. Kate watched him, trying to read his expression. Finally, he set the photograph down and looked at her. "This is dangerous," he said quietly. "I know. If this gets out, it won't," Kate interrupted. "Not until we know the truth." Robert nodded slowly. He'd worked with Kate for years. He knew she was different from the others. She didn't play games. She didn't hide from hard truths. She faced them head-on. "The brooch disappeared in 1997, Robert said. "Right after the funeral. I was part of the team that cataloged Diana's belongings. It should have been there, but it wasn't. We searched everywhere. Nothing. Who had access? Kate asked. Robert hesitated. This was the question he'd been dreading. The question that had haunted him for 26 years. Family members, he said carefully. Close staff. And a few others who were helping with the estate, Camilla. The name fell like a stone. Robert's expression hardened. He walked to the window, his back to Kate. She visited Kensington Palace twice, he said. Once before the funeral, once after. Both times with Charles. Kate felt her stomach twist. What was she doing there? Officially? Offering support. Helping with arrangements? He turned back to face her. But I always wondered. She spent time in Diana's private rooms alone. The words hung between them. Kate felt anger rising in her chest. But she forced herself to stay calm. To think clearly. We need proof, she said. Proof is dangerous, Robert replied. If we accuse the Queen Consort of theft without evidence, then we find the evidence. Robert studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. There's someone who might know something. Margaret Thornton. She was Diana's dresser. She handled all of Diana's jewelry. She left the royal service in 1998. Lives in Bath now. Can you reach her? I can try. Kate walked to the desk and picked up the photograph again. She looked at the brooch, at the way it caught the light. Diana had loved beautiful things. But more than that, she'd loved what they represented. History, family, connection, and someone had stolen that from her. There's something else, Robert said. His voice was different now, heavier. A photograph. Look at what it's sitting on. Kate looked closer. The red velvet. She'd noticed it before but hadn't thought much of it. Now she saw what Robert meant. The fabric had a pattern. A subtle one. Royal insignia woven into the texture. That's from Clarence's house, Robert said quietly. Camilla's residence. The room seemed to shrink. Kate felt her pulse quicken. The photograph wasn't just proof the brooch existed. It was proof of where it was. Who had it? Someone inside sent this, Kate said. Someone with access. Someone who knows what's happening behind closed doors. Kate set the photograph down carefully. Her mind was racing. This was bigger than she'd thought. This wasn't just about a missing brooch. This was about corruption at the highest level. About secrets that had been kept for decades. About a dead princess who deserved justice. Contact Margaret, Kate said firmly. Find out what she knows. And Robert, he looked at her. Keep this between us. No one else. Not yet. Robert nodded. He understood. They were walking into a minefield. One wrong step and everything would explode. He left quietly, taking the photograph with him. Kate stood alone in the study, her hands trembling slightly. She thought of Diana again. Of her smile. Her kindness. Her pain, and she made a silent promise. Whatever it took, she would bring that brooch home. Asterisk, asterisk, Margaret Thornton. Lived in a small cottage on the edge of Bath. Ivy climbed the stone walls. Roses grew wild in the front garden. It looked peaceful. The kind of place where secrets came to rest. Robert drove there alone. 3 days after his meeting with Kate, he'd called ahead. Margaret had agreed to see him, though her voice on the phone had been uncertain. Afraid even, she opened the door before he knocked. She was 70 now, her hair white, her hands spotted with age. But her eyes were still sharp. Still clear. Mr. Hayes, she said. It's been a long time. Too long. She led him inside. The cottage was small but tidy. Photographs covered the walls. Diana was in many of them. Young and smiling. Wearing gowns and tiaras. Wearing the sapphire brooch. Margaret saw him looking. I never forgot her, she said softly. She was kind to me. Treated me like family. They sat in the kitchen. Margaret made tea, her hands shaking slightly as she poured. Robert waited. He knew better than to rush this. Finally, she spoke. You're here about the brooch, Robert nodded. How did you know? Margaret smiled sadly. Because I've been waiting for someone to ask. For 26 years I've been waiting. She set her cup down and looked at him directly. I was there the day it disappeared. September 1997. 2 weeks after the funeral, I was packing Diana's jewelry, cataloging everything. The brooch was in its case. I remember because I held it, cried. It was one of her favorites. What happened? Robert asked gently. Margaret's face darkened. She came, Camilla. She said she was there to collect some personal items for Charles. Things that reminded him of Diana. I thought it was strange, but she was with him. I couldn't say no. Robert leaned forward. Did you see her take it? Not directly. But I left the room for 10 minutes. When I came back, the brooch was gone. The case was empty. I panicked. I searched everywhere. Then I went to find her to ask if she'd seen it. But she was already leaving. Her and Charles. They were in a hurry. Did you report it? Margaret looked down at her hands. Shame crossed her face. I tried. I told the senior staff. They said I must have misplaced it. That I was emotional, grieving. They said accusing Camilla would cause a scandal. They told me to keep quiet. So I did. Her voice broke. I've regretted it every day since. Robert reached across the table and touched her hand. You were pressured. You did what you could. It wasn't enough, Margaret whispered. Diana deserved better. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, birds sang in the garden. The world moved on, indifferent to old pain. There's more, Margaret said. A few months later, I saw something in a newspaper. A photograph of Camilla at a charity event. She was wearing a sapphire brooch. It wasn't Diana's, not exactly, but it was similar. Too similar? You think she had it altered? I think she had the stones reset. Changed the design enough that no one would recognize it. But the sapphires, those were Diana's, I'm sure of it. Robert felt anger rising in his chest. He'd suspected for years. But hearing it confirmed was different. It made it real. Would you be willing to testify to this? He asked. Margaret went pale. Testify to who? The Princess of Wales, Kate. She's investigating this privately. Margaret stood and walked to the window. She stared out at the roses, her arms wrapped around herself. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. They'll destroy me. They destroyed anyone who spoke against her before. I'm an old woman, Mr. Hayes. I have a small pension. A quiet life. If I do this, you'll be protected, Robert said firmly. Kate will make sure of it. But Margaret, we need your help. Without it, the truth stays buried. Diana stays forgotten. Margaret closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She thought of Diana, of her laughter, her warmth, the way she'd made everyone around her feel special. She thought of that brooch, stolen and hidden, a piece of Diana's legacy locked away in darkness. She turned back to Robert. What do you need me to do? Robert stood and walked to her. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Tell your story. All of it. Kate will handle the rest. Margaret nodded slowly. When soon, I'll arrange everything. But Margaret, he looked at her seriously. Once we start this, there's no going back. Are you ready for that? She thought of Diana one more time, of the woman who had been betrayed in life and robbed in death, and she knew what she had to do. Yes, she said, I'm ready. Kate met Margaret in a private room at Kensington Palace. No guards outside. No staff within earshot. Just the three of them, Kate, Robert, and the woman who held the truth. Margaret was nervous. Her hands trembled as she sat down. But when Kate took her hand and smiled, something shifted. Margaret saw kindness in Kate's eyes. The same kindness she'd seen in Diana's. Thank you for coming, Kate said gently. I know this isn't easy. Margaret nodded. Diana would have liked you, she said quietly. She would have been proud. Kate felt emotion tighten her throat. She'd never met Diana, but she'd lived in her shadow for years. Compared to her, measured against her. And through it all, she'd come to respect the woman who had walked this path before her. Tell me everything, Kate said. Margaret did. She told the story exactly as she'd told Robert. The missing brooch, Camilla's visit, the altered jewelry in the photograph, every detail, every suspicion, every moment of guilt she'd carried for 26 years. Kate listened without interrupting. Her face was calm, but inside, fury burned. This wasn't just theft. This was erasure. An attempt to wipe Diana from history. To take what was hers and remake it as someone else's. When Margaret finished, Kate stood and walked to the window. She looked out at the gardens where Diana had once walked, where she'd played with her sons, where she'd tried to find peace in a life that gave her none. "We need the brooch," Kate said. "Physical evidence. Without it, it's just a story. They'll deny everything." "How do we get it?" Robert asked. "We can't just walk into Clarence's house and search Camilla's jewelry." Kate turned back to them. Her eyes were sharp now, determined. "No, but we know someone who can." Margaret looked confused. Robert understood immediately. "Anonymous sender," he said. Kate nodded. "Someone inside Clarence's house sent that photograph. Someone who wants the truth to come out. We need to find them. And we need them to get us the brooch." "That's incredibly dangerous," Robert said. "If Camilla finds out, she won't. Not if we're careful." Robert pulled out his phone. He opened the photograph and zoomed in. The image was blurred, but there were clues. The angle suggested it was taken from above, looking down. The lighting was soft, natural, morning or late afternoon, and in the corner, barely visible, was a reflection in the glass case. A person's silhouette. "Whoever took this was standing close," Robert said. "They had access to Camilla's private rooms. That narrows it down to household staff. Dresser, maid, personal assistant. Can you get a list?" Kate asked. "I can try. But approaching them directly is risky. If we contact the wrong person, then we don't contact them," Kate said. "We let them contact us." She walked to the desk and pulled out a piece of paper. She wrote carefully, choosing her words. When she finished, she handed it to Robert. The note read, "The Princess of Wales knows the truth. If you want to help Diana, leave the brooch in the yellow rose garden at Clarence's house. Midnight, Friday. You will be protected." Robert read it twice. This could work. But how do we get it to them? Kate smiled slightly. "You're the head of palace security, Robert. You have clearance everywhere, including Clarence's house. You'll find a way." Robert looked at the note again. It was bold, risky, but it might work. "And if they don't show? If they're too afraid? Then we find another way," Kate said firmly. "But I don't think they will be. Someone sent that photograph for a reason. They want this to end. They want justice." Margaret spoke up, her voice stronger now. "What happens after?" "When you get the brooch." Kate sat down beside her. "We go public. Carefully. We tell Diana's story. We show what was taken from her. And we make sure the world remembers who she was." "Camilla will fight back," Margaret warned. "She has power now. The crown behind her." "No," Kate said. "But she doesn't have the truth. And that's stronger than any crown." Robert stood. "I'll deliver the note tomorrow, discreetly. I have a contact on Camilla's staff. Someone I trust. Be careful," Kate said. "Always," he left with the note. Margaret stayed a moment longer. She looked at Kate with tears in her eyes. "You're risking everything for this?" she said. "Why?" Kate thought about the question. She thought about Diana, about William, about the legacy of pain and secrets that had haunted this family for decades. And she thought about the kind of monarchy she wanted to help build. One based on truth, not lies. On justice, not convenience. "Because it's right," she said simply. "Because Diana deserves it. And because someone has to stand up." Margaret embraced her. It was brief but fierce. When she pulled back, she was smiling through her tears. "She would have loved you," Margaret whispered again. After she left, Kate stood alone in the room. She looked at the photograph on the desk. The sapphire brooch gleaming in frozen light. Friday was 3 days away. 3 days until they would know if this gamble would work. 3 days until the truth would either surface or sink. Forever into darkness. *** Friday came with rain. Cold and steady, drumming against the windows of Windsor Castle. Kate barely slept the night before. She kept thinking about the yellow rose garden at Clarence's house, about whether anyone would come, about what would happen if they did. Robert had delivered the note on Wednesday. He'd slipped it into a cleaning cart that belonged to Anna Petrov, a housekeeper who'd worked at Clarence's house for 15 years. Robert had known her for a decade. She was quiet, observant, and she had access to every room in the building. The note was simple. Give this to whoever you think sent the photograph. Trust your instincts. Anna had said nothing when she received it, just nodded once. Robert had left. Now they could only wait. Kate spent Friday in meetings. Official duties, smiling for cameras, shaking hands, but her mind was elsewhere. At 11:45 that night, her phone buzzed. A text from Robert. I'm in position. He was outside Clarence's house, hidden in the shadows across the street, watching the garden. Kate had wanted to go with him, but Robert had refused. Too risky, he'd said. If anyone saw the Princess of Wales lurking outside at midnight, questions would be asked. Questions they couldn't answer. So Kate waited. She sat in her private room at Windsor, staring at her phone. The minutes crawled by. 11:50. 11:55, midnight. Nothing. Kate's heart sank. Maybe they'd been wrong. Maybe the sender was too afraid. Maybe her phone buzzed. Another text. Someone's here. Kate stood up, her pulse racing. She wanted to call Robert, to hear what was happening. But she couldn't. She had to wait. Trust him. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Each one felt like an hour. Finally, her phone rang. Robert's voice was tight with excitement. We have it. Asterisk, asterisk. Kate closed her eyes. Relief flooded through her. Who was it? Anna, the housekeeper. She left it wrapped in cloth. I watched her from across the street. She was terrified. Kept looking over her shoulder, but she did it. Where are you now? On my way to you. I'll be there in 40 minutes. Kate paced the room, unable to sit still. She thought about Anna risking everything. About Margaret carrying guilt for decades. About Diana, robbed even in death. And about Camilla, who'd thought her secret was safe. When Robert arrived, he carried a small box. Plain wood, unadorned. He set it on the table between them. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Kate opened it. Inside, nestled in black velvet, was the brooch. It was even more beautiful than in the photograph. Sapphires, the color of deep ocean water. Diamonds that caught the light like stars. The craftsmanship was exquisite, royal, historic, and unmistakably Diana's. Kate picked it up carefully. The weight of it surprised her. Not just physical weight, but the weight of what it represented. 26 years of lies, theft, of a woman's memory being stolen piece by piece. Look at this, Robert said. He pointed to the back of the brooch. There, engraved in tiny letters, DMF, 1985, Diana Mary Frances. The year she received it from Queen Mary's collection. It's definitely hers, Kate whispered. Robert pulled out a folder. Inside were documents, photographs, records from 1997, showing the brooch listed in Diana's official inventory. A jeweler's appraisal from 1996, and most damning of all, a photograph from 2003, Camilla at a private reception, wearing a sapphire brooch that looked different but used the same stones, the same distinctive cut, the same arrangement. She had it altered, Robert said, just like Margaret thought. Changed the setting, made it look like a new piece. But the stones, they're Diana's. Kate stared at the evidence. It was overwhelming, undeniable. Camilla had stolen the brooch, hidden it, worn Diana's jewels while pretending to honor her memory. What now? Robert asked quietly. Kate set the brooch down carefully. Her mind was racing. They had the proof. They had witnesses. They had everything they needed to expose the truth. But doing so would shatter the royal family. It would create a scandal that would echo for generations. It would turn Kate into a target. But staying silent would be worse. It would mean Diana's theft was permanent. That lies could stand forever as long as they were protected by power. Kate looked at Robert. We tell William first. He deserves to know. Then we decide together how to handle this. Robert nodded. When tomorrow? I'll call him tonight. After Robert left, Kate sat alone with the brooch. She held it up to the light, watching the sapphires shimmer. She imagined Diana wearing it, smiling for cameras, never knowing it would one day be stolen from her children. Kate picked up her phone. Her hands were steady now. She'd made her choice. She dialed William's private number. It rang twice before he answered. Kate, it's late. Is everything all right? She looked at the brooch one more time. We need to talk. It's about your mother. I found something. Something important. It was a long pause. Then William's voice quieter now. I'm listening. Kate took a breath. It's about her brooch. The sapphire one. The one that went missing. Another pause. Longer this time. You found it? Yes. And William. Her voice was firm now. You need to know who took it. William arrived at Windsor at dawn. He'd driven through the night from his home, unable to wait. His face was drawn, tired, but his eyes were sharp with something Kate had rarely seen in him, anger. She led him to the private study. The brooch sat on the table, still in its box. William stopped when he saw it. His breath caught. He walked forward slowly, like approaching something sacred. I remember this, he said quietly. He reached out but didn't touch it. She wore it on my birthday. My 8th birthday. She said it was her good luck charm. Kate stood beside him, silent. Letting him have this moment, William finally picked up the brooch. His hands trembled slightly. Where was it? Clarence house, Kate said. Hidden in Camilla's collection. William's jaw tightened. He set the brooch down carefully, as if afraid he might break it. Or break something else. You're certain? Kate showed him everything. The photograph. Margaret's testimony. The evidence of alteration. The engraving. William listened without speaking. His face grew harder with each piece of information. When she finished, he walked to the window. Rain still fell outside, washing the world clean, or trying to. She stole from my mother, he said. His voice was cold, controlled, but underneath, Kate heard the pain. The betrayal. She stole from her and wore her jewels. For years, yes, Kate said simply. William turned back to her. What do you want to do? Kate had expected this question, had prepared for it, but now, standing here with William, seeing his pain, she realized the answer wasn't hers alone. That depends on you, she said. This is your mother's legacy. Your choice. William looked at the brooch again. He thought about his mother, about her smile, her kindness, the way she'd loved him and Harry fiercely, even when the world tried to tear her apart. And he thought about Camilla, about the woman his father had chosen, the woman who now wore his mother's crown. If we expose this, he said slowly, it destroys her. It destroys my father's marriage. It creates a scandal that will dominate headlines for months, maybe years. Yes, Kate agreed. But if we stay silent, then your mother stays robbed, and the truth stays buried. William closed his eyes. Kate watched him struggle with it. She knew this wasn't just about a brooch. It was about family, about loyalty, about choosing between protecting the institution and honoring his mother's memory. Finally, he opened his eyes. I need to speak with her, with Camilla, face to face. Are you sure? Kate asked. She denied it. Maybe, but I need to hear it from her. I need to give her the chance to explain. Kate nodded. She understood. This was William's way. He'd always tried to see the best in people, to find the peaceful path. Even now, with evidence of betrayal in his hands, he wanted to believe there might be another explanation. I'll come with you, Kate said. No, William said firmly. This is between me and her, between my father's family and my mother's memory. 2 days later, William went to Clarence's house. He carried the brooch in his pocket. Camilla greeted him warmly, unsuspecting. They sat in her private drawing room. Tea was served. Pleasantries were exchanged. Then William pulled out the brooch and set it on the table between them. Camilla went pale. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she reached for her teacup with a shaking hand.
Where did you find that?
She asked. In your collection, William said. Where it's been for 26 years? Camilla set the cup down. I don't know what you're talking about, William said. The word was sharp, final. Don't lie to me. Not about this. Not about her. Camilla looked at him. Really looked at him, and she saw something that frightened her. She saw Diana in his eyes. The same fierce determination, the same refusal to back down. It was a mistake, she said finally. Her voice was barely a whisper. After the funeral, I was at Kensington, helping Charles. I saw it. And I don't know why I took it. Grief, confusion, anger maybe? I'd spent so many years being hated, being blamed. And there was Diana's jewelry. All of it, laid out like treasures. Like she was the saint and I was the devil. So you stole from her, William said flatly. I borrowed it, Camilla said. I was going to return it. But time passed, and then it seemed too late. Too complicated. So I had it altered. Changed. I thought no one would ever know. But you wore it, William said. You wore my mother's jewels. While pretending to respect her memory, Camilla looked down at her hands. I'm sorry. So the words hung in the air. Inadequate. Too small for the size of the betrayal. William stood. He picked up the brooch and put it back in his pocket. This belongs to my mother's legacy. It will be returned to the royal collection. In her name? With full acknowledgement of where it came from. Camilla looked up sharply. William, if this becomes public, then it becomes public, William said. You made that choice 26 years ago. Now you live with it. He walked to the door. Then he paused and looked back. My mother deserved better than what you did to her in life. She certainly deserves better than what you did to her in death. He left without waiting for a response. 3 weeks later, the brooch was placed on display at Kensington Palace. A plaque beside it read, The Queen Mary Sapphire Brooch. Beloved by Princess Diana, lost in 1997, recovered in 2025 through the dedication of the Princess of Wales, and returned to honor Diana's memory. The story made headlines worldwide. Questions were asked. Camilla issued a brief statement expressing regret for a misunderstanding decades ago. The statement satisfied no one, but it was enough to prevent a complete scandal. Kate stood in the gallery, looking at the brooch behind its glass. Visitors filed past, taking photographs. Reading the story, remembering Diana, William came to stand beside her. Thank you, he said quietly. I didn't do it alone. No, but you started it. You refused to let it stay buried. Kate smiled slightly. She deserved the truth. She did. William looked at the brooch one more time. She would have liked you, you know? My mother, she would have seen your strength. Your heart. She would have known Harry and I were in good hands. Kate felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back. I hope so. They stood together in silence. Two people connected by love of the same family, bound by the same commitment to truth, and honoring the memory of a woman who had loved them both, in different ways, across time. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds. Light streamed through the windows, catching the sapphires in the brooch. They blazed brilliant blue, beautiful, eternal, finally home.